Check. It's on. Okay, at 7 p.m., we're going to open this meeting. Matt, can you do roll call, please?
Everybody is present.
Thank you, Matt. So we're continuing our public hearing from last month. I'm going to turn it over to our recorder to announce the public hearing, please. Okay, here's how we're going to flow the evening. We're going to give the Romanelli team a chance to make an opening statement. When we're finished with that opening statement, any residents who would like to come forward and pose questions are welcome to do that. And then following that, the commission will have their opportunity, and we'll go from there. So, Gary, if you'd like to come forward.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the commission. It's really good to see you again. My name's, for the records, Gary Smith, G2 Planning and Design, 720 East Broad Street, Columbus, Ohio. I just wanted to kind of go through this evening. I think we've really been through this in depth a number of times, and I know some people might want to get to some questions. So what I'd like to do is just go over some of the things that we've discussed and some of the things that we've changed since the last meeting. Perfect. Thank you so much. And just kind of give you some of those details, and then, if anybody wants kind of further presentation on any items, certainly happy to do that. But thought it would be best just to give you kind of a brief presentation on some of the things that have changed. So one of the things that I think is the most important is over the last couple of weeks, and it's been kind of fun. Trying to pin down kind of what's happening with the existing barn and the piece of property that Mr. Grosinger wants to retain. And I think kind of all along, this has been kind of a source of confusion for a lot of folks because we didn't really have it well defined. We knew that the barn was going to remain, and we knew that Jim wanted to put a house near the barn so that somebody could live there and kind of watch over his stuff in the barn. But it left a lot of confusion on, what was actually part of the Arrowhead development, how much of that was available for open space, all of those things. And so we really tried to work with him to clean it up and get kind of a formal agreement on exactly what was going to happen. So we were able to do that. And so one of the things that we did initially, he said, I just want to carve off everything on the other side of the power lines, or everything including the power lines. So he wanted a total of a little over 5 acres. And so, from our standpoint, number one, we needed to have that pathway connection through there because we've committed to that, and we needed to have some open space in that area as well to be able to meet our 30% open space requirements. And so what we did was we worked with him to essentially create, I might have gone a little too far, or maybe not, to essentially create about a 2.5 acre lot in the corner. So that reduced the amount that ultimately he's going to retain ownership of. So instead of the 5 acres, it's the 2.5 acres, and it's about 2.6 acres. And then the rest of it remains property of the Arrowhead Owners Association. So all of that maintains and stays public open space. It's maintained by the owners association, and then, Jim can have his lot, and everything's right with the world. The other thing that we all agreed on is that whatever Jim does on his lot, it needs to conform to the requirements that we've established for the Arrowhead development. So it's not just a kind of a carte blanche arrangement, where he gets to do what he wants. We've established guidelines in the text for, what he can build. The house has to meet the Arrowhead architecture requirements as well. And as you can see here, we were able to get him to sign both the plan and the changes to the text to acknowledge that he agrees basically with everything that we've put together. That, on top of the fact that he's already signed the application for the zoning, indicates that he agrees to abide by the zoning that we're all establishing here. So that's really the biggest change, and that for us is kind of a huge cleanup item. It takes all of the ambiguity out of the application for both the village, for Jim, for us, and it gives kind of clear defined boundaries on what's going to happen and what the expectations are for all of those things. So, and then just some other, I'm just going to stick really to the highlights. I'm just going to go down to the next slide just so we have the master plan open. So some of the bigger points, the donation to the village. Romanelli and Hughes has agreed to make a total donation of $400,000 to the village. I understand that there's probably still some conversation left on the village side about how that money gets distributed, whether it's general fund, whether it's park fund. From the standpoint of Romanelli and Hughes, that piece of it is really the village's business. And so the commitment from our standpoint is, $400,000. And however the village wants to allocate that, we're willing to work with the village to just make sure that it goes where the village feels like it needs to go. One of the other topics of conversation that has come up is the ability for us to put a sidewalk along the entire Arrowhead, along the frontage of Walnut. We've agreed to do that. We've shown that in the plans. It should be in the updated plans that you have in your packets that we've submitted to Matt. That sidewalk, what we're going to do is a good portion of that frontage along Arrowhead or along Walnut Street is actually in the ODOT limited access right-of-way. So we don't necessarily have control over the right-of-way. So what we've said we'll do is we agree to work with ODOT to see if we can get the sidewalk placed in the right-of-way and connect it up to the sidewalk and the handicap ramp that's already built there. But if ODOT will not allow us to install the sidewalk in the right-of-way at this time, then what we'll do is we'll install the sidewalk on our side of the right-of-way, right along our side of the right-of-way line, along the entire frontage, so that it ultimately can be connected up. So we'll build that sidewalk, and if we can work with ODOT to kind of get it, in the right-of-way where it really belongs, then we'll certainly do that. But either way, a sidewalk is going to get constructed.
Well, you're talking about from Route 3.
Yep.
How far back are you talking?
So from Route 3, basically where our property line ends at that little triangle. Let's see if I can find a display that might show it a little bit better.
So you're not talking all the way to Heathermere?
We're talking all the way from Route 3 to our property boundary. To get it to Heathermere would require several easements from other people that we don't have access at this point in time. So we've talked about the sidewalk, making that sidewalk connection. One of the things that we've agreed to, and I was going to get to this later, but since you brought it up, we have agreed to assist the village with any grant applications for that sidewalk. Romanelli and Hughes is also going to have their contractor go through and do an estimate of what that sidewalk section would cost, so including likely cost of easements, whatever some of the challenges are there with kind of the grading and the ditch and everything like that. So we're willing to work with the village on those items, certainly, and we've kind of committed to doing that as well. So right now, what we can control is certainly within our property boundary, and we're going to install sidewalk all along the frontage and then work with the village on the rest.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So considering that these houses are on Walnut and they're all natural drainage, it's like from 1950s and 45s.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to, in order for them to actually put sidewalks in, you have to put drainage and everything else in because it's an architectural, it's an engineering feat. And then,
Yes.
so eventually we're going to widen the street because we have to, in order for it, when it comes down to we're taking the bell out.
Yep.
So we have to, it's my belief that we cannot put any streets in there until we can widen the road because putting any sidewalks in there are just going to dissolve.
Yeah, I think that has to be part of the overall conversation, kind of the strategy and the timing around getting that sidewalk in there. I think everybody agrees that pedestrian connectivity is a good thing, but you're right. There's a lot that has to happen from an engineering perspective. In addition, the folks that live along Walnut there may or may not want a sidewalk in their front yard, and those folks have some say in it as well. It's going to require some easement or some right-of-way or some things to kind of make that work. So there's definitely a lot of things that have to be discussed, and timing is certainly one of them.
Right, so in order to widen the roads, you have to get the drainage in order for the sidewalks to be there. And
Yeah.
I actually consider it a safety hazard for people to walk from the village even, and Heathermere too, as a safety thing. So I know we're
Yeah.
trying to put money towards those, but I will be on top of that because I consider the little baby buggy coming down there and everything else, and kids will run off the road. And so that's going to, I think it's a safety issue that I know it's 3 to 4 years down the road, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, for certain. I mean, having the pedestrian connectivity would be a much safer solution. And I think we're willing to help facilitate that, to the best of our ability. A couple of other things that came up, question about the Miller Farm MOU. We did update the MOU to incorporate the Miller Farm materials for the traffic study. That's been taken care of. And, the developer has agreed to abide by all of the recommendations of the final approved traffic study. So whatever the traffic study tells us that we're going to have to do, that's what we're going to have to do. We've agreed to increase the side yard setbacks from 6 feet to 8 feet for the single-family sub-area. We've already made that change in the text and on the plans. We've agreed to increase the minimum lot size in the single-family sub-area from 52 to 56 feet. That's already been taken care of in the plans and the text. There was a request that we add additional parking to the townhome sub-area. We've already made those changes. I think we actually unveiled that change at the last Planning Commission meeting last time we were here. We've added those. We've increased the private streets from 24 to 26 feet wide. There was a request that the patio homes incorporate front porches. That's been taken care of. All of the elevations that are in your packet now show front porches on the patio homes. There was some concerns about the private streets in the homeowners association next door. Romanelli and Hughes and the village has already participated in a meeting with the neighbors since our last public hearing here, and already are taking steps to take a look at resolving that situation. We already talked about the donation. The chain link fence, the developer has already agreed to remove the chain link fence along the boundary if that's what the neighbors would like, and I think that's what we heard, and Romanelli and Hughes has agreed to install additional landscaping along that entire border where we don't have enough existing trees for an adequate buffer. Ponds, fountains in the retention ponds, we've agreed all of the ponds will have either a fountain or an aerator. The only difference between the two is fountain is above the water, aerator circulates water underneath. And so in areas where we have high visibility, we'll do the fountain, where we need the aesthetics. In areas where we may have single family, where people may not want the constant noise of the fountain, we may have an aerator. But in either case, both of those things are designed to essentially keep algae bloom and those things out of the pond. So those are designed to keep the ponds from turning green. Parking limited to one side of the public streets only. We have agreed to do that. The signs will be installed on the fire hydrant side of the street. So essentially there'll be no parking on the fire hydrant side of the street. I see your hand on the button. Did you want to ask a question?
Go ahead and finish. I don't want to stop you.
Okay. We talked about the sidewalk in between our property and Heathermere, and providing some cost estimates to that. Off-site storm sewer study, we agree. Certainly, that's actually part of the requirement of any storm sewer study anyway, just based on state law, based on county code, based on your subdivision regulations. Any water that's coming from off-site, we have to accept that water. So we have to study it, we have to know what it is, and we have to basically accommodate it so that we don't create flooding in other people's backyards. So that's already kind of baked into the cake. The village requested to work with Romanelli and Hughes on tree selection. Absolutely happy to. We agree. As we get into final development plans, our office would be very happy to meet with any of the village designees to go through tree selection and what the village's preferences on street trees and other things would be.
Gary, if I could, the reason behind that is we go up and down any neighborhood I'm in.
Yeah.
And you can see the trees that are installed between the street and the sidewalk. The roots are bringing up right. So we want to make sure we're.
Yeah, we want to make sure we're picking roots that don't, picking trees that don't have a shallow root system at the end of the day.
What is the total number of trees you're taking out, and what's the total amount of trees you're putting in?
So I did an estimate. We're across the entire golf course. This includes kind of the trees that are along the holes and kind of things. I think we're removing a total of 593 trees. Now, that was not an estimate of how many of those trees met the 6-inch and above requirement. It was just a total of how many trees we could see on the plans, and we counted those, and then we did an estimate for trees in the corner that would potentially be affected, and we came up with about 592 trees.
And how many are you putting in?
About 1,100.
And one more question. So you're removing the trees, especially on the course, so you can have even drainage for all the homes, because you have to have that.
Yeah.
And so you have to level them off and have the drainage appropriate for everyone,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I mean, the reality of kind of the development is the mass grading that's going to have to occur to get streets and utilities and house pads and everything in. There just isn't any way to massage that to save those trees. There's just going to be too much earthwork there. And even if we could find a little pocket here or there, there's going to be so much construction equipment moving around there that, the likelihood is that they probably won't survive.
So
Now, in the
water's-
corner, we can create some more space.
Right, because you have drainage there. So
Yeah.
the problem is, it's like you're doing so many houses that you want people's basements flooded. You have to do a lot of
Right.
contouring the land, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. And we're not going to dramatically change the nature of the land, but we are going to be doing a lot of grading to level things out, making sure that things are draining in the right way, draining towards the ponds. We also have to consider flood routing. So any water, again, that's coming from off-site, if we get a particularly heavy rain, we also have to have the ability for that water not only to flow through the pipes, but if the pipes overfill, we have to have the ability for that water to find an overland route to the detention ponds so that, again, water doesn't back up in backyards and basements.
What's the average circumference of those drainage? Are they going to be very large drains, obviously?
The pipes,
Yeah.
it's going to vary.
Okay.
Pipes at the end of the run will be 8 inches, 10 inches. Pipes closer to the retention pond, maybe 12, maybe 15-inch pipes. I'm not an engineer, so We haven't done the final calculations, but just my experience with storm sewer, that's generally the way that it works. And it's all calculated based on the tributary area of each of those basins. So how much water's coming into that basin, that gives you a calculation for what size that pipe needs to be to carry it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Can I make a comment about the fence?
of course.
Can you go back to the diagram where you show the whole thing?
Uh-huh. Oops, am I going the right way? No, I'm going the wrong way.
There you go. So on the bottom and then up the side to Zor Street is where that chain link fence is.
Mhm.
So my concern is, the request was, could you remove it and replace it with something that looks like the fence that's going to go around all the properties that you all are building? And so what I heard you say was you're definitely willing to take it down and replace it with some shrubbery and things like that to
Yeah.
make it blend in. And so my concern with that is that all these properties that are existing today on the right and then on the bottom of this picture turn into cut through. Basically, people could just walk through all the yards.
Yeah.
So that would be my concern is, would really love it if we could replace that fence or just leave the fence up that's already there.
Well, I think that'll be the conversation. The challenge for us is, and I know it's kind of difficult to imagine, but from a scale standpoint, it's nearly a mile of fence. So taking it down, obviously not expensive. Replacing it with like a wrought iron fence, you're talking close to $500,000.
Okay.
It's a pretty steep, it's a pretty steep price tag.
Wrought iron's going to be the standard? That's what you're going
Well,
to
no,
use?
we're actually not having any fence in the development itself.
Okay.
We are allowing, for some fence or pet containment, those kind of things, I think, in the text, but we're not going to have like a standard fence type in the development.
Seth, do you know if that fence goes all the way up Zor Street?
It does.
It does?
It goes all the way around
All right, so,
the golf course, including.
so it doesn't
kind of
show that here very well, but all those very mature trees up Zor Street are going to remain there.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
We're gonna, we've kept a 25-foot buffer there for those existing trees, and we're gonna augment that with additional trees and landscaping. We're definitely gonna work with
Wasn't that a
the
30-foot
neighbors.
buffer?
What's that?
You said 25-foot buffer, wasn't it 30?
Now memory escapes me. Let me take a look real quick. I don't want to misspeak. Yes, it's 30. I apologize. Thank you. We've left a 30-foot buffer. That's what's shown in the plans. We're going to go back and augment that again with existing trees, work with the neighbors.
Because we're going to have the one walkway at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
That you all are creating, and that would be the only way to get out and then up to the village,
Yep.
essentially. So
Yeah.
if somebody doesn't want to go that way and the fence is down, even though it's an ugly one right now, then they just cut through everybody's yard and turns into a different problem.
That path will eventually link up to both Zor Street and then the bike path that runs down.
Which we want people to use that, right?
Yes, yes. So, I think if the preference is that people want the fence to stay from just a cut-through standpoint, again, we're very willing to work with the neighbors. That's definitely something that we can have a conversation about. And
The actual fencing itself in the development will be subject to the standard Galena zoning code. That was one of the changes that they made since last time as well.
Yeah, so the other concern is we take it down, y'all graciously take it all down, and then we have 50 different types of fence along the back instead of one ugly chain link fence that at least is consistently ugly.
So one way to handle, because I heard that come up, but you're right. One way to handle that is, we have our base zoning code that we have. The HOAs can do even more, right? The HOA could say, based on the zoning code that Galena has, we want this, right? And make it a standard kind of thing. That'd be up to the HOA if you wanted to do that.
Seth, I wonder if it's possible to get with your association, your home association, and see if they can actually look at what kind of fence they want, and if you could buy these fences, because it's only the back, and see what cost you get by buying everything at once. and then you guys decide what fence you want for continuity, to make your homes look better and also to increase your values.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I hear what you're saying. It would be tough to get all those neighbors to agree on one thing.
That's why you have a homeowners association.
Yeah, well, it would be a multiple homeowners associations because you got the Heathermere and then you got the one up the side. But I hear what you're saying. I agree with you.
I mean,
I know.
We talked about that. We talked about the Jim Grosinger's parcel. I think we've addressed that adequately, hopefully. There was a conversation about the parking space numbers. I did want to kind of explain that because I think there's a lot of confusion around that. And what we're really trying to do is make things more simple for the developer and for the village. Because Matt ultimately is the one that has to enforce all of this. So what we essentially did, right now the village code is just broken down to like each individual use has its own parking requirements. And those are built on basically kind of standalone sites, individual facilities. We've got a commercial center that's going to have a variety of things in it. It's going to have office in it. It's going to have commercial spaces in it. It's going to have restaurants in it, those kind of things. And we don't know who those tenants are yet. So it's really hard for us to look at 14 different requirements and determine what the overall parking needs are going to be. So what we did was we took, like on average, when we work with a commercial developer, on average, they want 4 to 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of retail restaurant in their development. So if it's like a strip retail or something like that, it's averaged out to like 4 or 5 spaces. For office uses, it's traditionally about 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet. And so we tried to create an average. So we just settled on 4.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet. And what that does is it makes it easier for us to anticipate, okay, here's how many parking spaces we can get, in this commercial section. And so based on that, here's the amount of square footage we can provide. So the parking is actually going to be what ends up limiting the square footage, not the square footage in the code, because we're going to come up short of what the code would actually allow or what our text would actually allow based on the parking. But the other thing that does is as we get into coming in with zoning certificates, rather than trying to have to figure out, okay, well, in this, 2,000 square feet of this building, we've got a restaurant, and the other 2,000 feet, we've got an insurance agent, and the other 2,000 feet, we've got a pet store or an ice cream store or a coffee shop. Then Matt's got to go through a bunch of different calculations to try to figure out if we have enough parking. And then in the future, what happens, which is even worse, is when you have a tenant move out and a new tenant move in, Matt now has to recalculate all of it. And does it put Matt in the position of saying, well, hey, I know you're trying to fill that empty space with a coffee shop, but now based on the coffee shop requirements, you guys are 2 spaces shy, so you can't lease that space to the coffee shop. So it just makes things more difficult for everybody. So for some predictability, what we said was we're not going to build any more retail space than 4.5 spaces per 1,000 square feet. So that's what we were ultimately trying to accomplish. Hopefully everybody kind of understands the common sense in that. Just trying to clean things up, still provide enough parking based on what traditionally, retailers and office folks expect when they, develop a property. Because it's in our interest to maintain enough space, because if we don't have enough parking spaces, then it's a lot harder for Romanelli and Hughes to keep those areas leased up. So that was, I wanted to make sure that I went through that because I know that question kind of came up the last time. We've upgraded or updated our text to reflect that all the public streets in the commercial have a minimum sidewalk of 6 feet. In reality, many of them are going to be basically from the pull-off parking or the off-street parking all the way to the door. So they're going to be much wider than that anyway. That really wasn't that big of an ask. There was a question about the limiting the height of 2 stories in in the sub-area 6. We've added that to the text. We've got the signatures from Jim Grosinger. And we talked about we already talked about kind of the dedication, the monetary dedication to the village. So is there anything that I've left out or missed? I tried to hit really some of the big ones. Some of them were just clarifications, and I think you guys have seen all of those in our response letter, but I just wanted to make sure some of the bigger things were covered for the benefit of the folks in the room.
Is it possible to change the name of the area from, to like Galena Point or something? And some of the roads, like some of the names of the roads, I actually looked at them today.
Well, the names of the roads, that was one of the questions that we had is, would we be willing to allow Jim Grosinger to participate in kind of the selection of the road names? Absolutely. We're certainly open to that. The name of the development,
I mean, I thought Galena Point might be easier for your stores and everything. Here's Galena, here's the point, instead of Arrowhead, because in 5 years, no one's going to know what Arrowhead is.
I think we could probably continue the conversations of that. I mean, especially as we work through and go to final development plan, things like that. The street names, we just made up kind of as we did the submittal, because a lot of times it's easier to just, when you're having a conversation about the development plans, if you have to reference a street, the street needs a name. So we just
could actually get village input on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. We just made them up just so that we had something to point to. They were
Yeah.
not married to those street names. by any
Michelle and
stretch
I
of the
were
imagination.
talking about it, and yes, it's Arrowhead, and it's the golf course, and everybody knows that. But when you build this, if it's the way that we're believing, it's going to be the opening, the mouth of Galena.
Yeah.
So Michelle and I were just, talking about, as she said, could it be Galena Point? And then I think
Yeah.
you have a circle in the middle, and you might call it Arrowhead Circle. Well, could that be, Galena Circle?
Yeah,
Those
I
types
think
of
that there's
things.
definitely room to kind of continue having those conversations. We have a lot of,
Do you like that?
Well, you have to rename yours. Okay.
I mean, if people are going to search, engine search.
Because
to come
eventually
here,
Arrowhead Golf
Galena
is,
Point would be more obvious. We
Yeah.
show up Galena. Yeah.
yeah, we're certainly open to having those conversations. Some of it is kind of a marketing, thing for Romanelli and Hughes, and having something distinctive that people can easily point to. Those are all conversations I think we can continue to have moving forward.
Thank you, Gary. And I also want to thank you for making so many changes that
Oh, sure.
in the last week to 2 weeks, you've been really, really great at incorporating all the things we've been talking about, and the questions have been coming your direction. So thank you for
Sometimes
that.
the hustle is just all
Um,
part of the deal.
Do we want to open up? Do you have some other questions? You want to open up to the residents? Yeah. You want to come
Do
over?
you want me
here?
to move
You want me to
down
move
like
over
we did
here,
before?
Gary? If any of our residents want to come forward, we can have you come over here. We just
Okay.
need a name and address when you come forward.
Hello, Jillian Doucette, 630 Flintlock Drive. I just had one comment when we were talking about the fences. I had my hands raised. Just for our community, the individuals on Zor, I know when this project first started, they were very concerned about their backyards being affected, the trees coming down, and that wasn't going to, through this plan, and Romanelli and Hughes just listening to this request, that's not happening. But they don't have a chain link fence. It's actually like the wire chicken fencing there. So I would just ask that, if we move forward with this plan, that we definitely involve the HOAs in that neighborhood, because it is different than the neighboring neighborhood of Heathermere. So just to keep that in mind. But again, the majority of all of our residents are very excited about the plan. We know something's going in there, and it's going to be good for Galena. So, and we appreciate all the walking paths and all the time that all of you have put into this. the developer and just all the hard work, because we know it's been a long time coming. So thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Sir?
Hello, my name's Brad Franz. I live at 745 Bodkin, and I guess we're not going to have the map up anymore, but I'm on one of the private streets. And I don't know how many meetings I might have missed, but you had asked me at the last one that I attended,
Right.
which I was out of the country for a couple of weeks between the last one and this one, so I don't know what I missed or didn't miss.
What you missed? I fill
Right,
you in.
but you had asked me, would I prefer gates on those private streets, or would we prefer, to relinquish control to the village? And I was wondering if any discussions with the council and yourself.
No, we did, absolutely.
Okay, can you explain?
Romanelli team and myself and our council president, Jillian, met with, I think, 3 of your HOA leadership team.
Okay,
So we talked through some solutions.
like Bruce and.
Yeah,
and
Bruce
those
was
fellows?
there. Yep,
Yeah,
Bruce
yeah,
was there.
okay,
And we
alright.
talked through some solutions, made some recommendations, and they seemed to be happy with us putting signage that says we have private streets here, put a 4-way stop in that area and start there and see how that traffic flows from there. But that's how we ended up the meeting.
Okay. So there won't be any kind of barrier or ownership change of those private
The
streets? then?
barrier, it
Is-
seemed that the HOA folks felt that would be intrusive to you guys getting in and out of your own.
Right.
area.
If somebody comes out of that, what's right now a stub, that's going to,
There'll be a
be
4-way
a-
stop. There'll be a 4-way stop there.
right, but all I was going to say was if somebody turns left instead of going straight,
It'll-
then they're going down my street.
They will
And
do
it's
it
a
once
very-
and probably not want to do it again because it'll be,
It's narrow. and
yep. There'll be the
cars
long
and-
path up there, yeah.
Well, not really, because it depends on where they're heading. If they're heading into Sunbury, that might make more sense than
They
going
would
out
stay
the
on
other way.
fescue. They would stay on that. Yeah.
Right, but I feed fescue. I mean, my street has fescue. And what I'm
Right.
saying is somebody could make a left, swing around and turn left on fescue and then go up towards Sunbury.
We'd be happy to meet again. I mean, if you want to touch base with Bruce and we want to get back together, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say as a zoning officer, when I first started, I did an inspection over on Zor for a deck project and followed the contractor who was doing that out to Fescue and then out through Sunbury's portion of the development to get out to Route 3. And then I came back another time and tried to go that same way and mistakenly ended up back in your section. And after I learned the first time, I never did it again. So you might get a few one-timers, but I don't think you'll get a lot of repeat traffic. It'll be annoying at first, but I think it'll go
Yeah.
away. So, sorry in
We
in
can be
advance.
hopeful, but I lived there. Yeah, I mean, that's still a concern, I guess, for me and everybody that's on the private streets, I think. Yeah, at any rate. I mean,
The
that's-
signage of a private road, I think will help a lot, and that's one of the things that the mayor discussed with the HOA. So I've been looking at those signs.
Yeah,
and so
that's obviously the cheapest.
perhaps most effective.
Okay. I guess the other question is, what about traffic study? I mean, that light at, oh shoot, I don't know the name of the street that feeds where the church is. I'm not sure, but it has a traffic light onto 3.
It's on up in Sunbury, the traffic light.
Right, that's where,
It's north of the church.
if somebody goes fescue and then wants to get out,
Isn't that Miller
they're going to be
Street?
backed up at that light.
Isn't that Miller Street?
I know, no, that's up by the Kroger.
Right.
No, I'm
No,
talking
it's-
the other light.
There's one before. There's one
Yeah.
before.
It's called Sunbury Meadows.
Right,
Ah,
right.
Thank you.
So I'm wondering about traffic study for that, because in the morning and evening, I don't have to deal with morning and evening because I've been retired for years, but there's going to be a
Gary,
lot of
the
traffic
circumference of the traffic study?
potentially at that intersection that's not
You might
using
hit
it
your
now.
mic.
You know what I mean?
He just asked me.
And there's school
and-
buses, there's children, you
Yeah.
know, there's safety issues,
Yeah.
I guess. So I guess I'm just curious if there's been any kind of traffic study for what's going to happen on our side, opening that up.
Well, I'm asking Gary to speak to what the traffic study will cover, so at least you know.
Well, I'm not sure I can provide a 100% answer because I'm not the traffic engineer and I haven't been involved in kind of the negotiation of the memorandum of understanding. But I know that the traffic study is going to have to study more than just the Walnut intersection.
Right.
How far it goes,
Right.
I'm not 100% sure. I would think that it would look at those connections, but
Right.
I don't want to say for
And-
sure just because I
Yeah.
don't want to lead you the wrong direction.
And to Jeff's point, that's not even Galena anymore. As soon as you go under those power lines, which are where the mailbox clusters are on Fescue, you're in Sunbury. So
There-
I don't know if they need to be. I
Brad,
mean, are they
they're-
aware of this?
They're doing the traffic study's taking a swath, a circle. I think it all goes all the way down to Dustin Road and back.
To where?
To Dustin Road.
Okay, and then how far?
And then the Miller Farm has been incorporated, that traffic's been incorporated into the MOU. What I can't tell you for sure is how far north it goes,
Right,
right? It does take into account our neighborhoods, for sure.
right. I think it
So as a
needs to
civil
go-
engineer, I'd like to just say the traffic study follows the industry standard of care. So we don't control the extent of the traffic study. It's done by engineering standards and ODOT specifications and MORPC data. So it takes all the affected area. So we don't set that area. That's a industry standard thing that happens with traffic engineering studies. So there won't be an area that will be missed on the traffic study. So-
Including, but again, I guess it was Jeff said he didn't know how far north that goes.
We don't
right?
set the boundary for the traffic study. That's done by industry standards, engineering standards, and it's
So-
set by, a number of, a variety of factors, ODOT standards, MORPC data, and so forth. So what traffic studies do is make sure that they capture the affected area, which is your road would be an affected area. So I would be assured by that.
Okay.
That the traffic study won't miss affected areas.
Okay, and obviously if you're opening up a second entrance/exit, you would certainly think that would get incorporated, right?
So Tom, are they allowed to get those facts or get numbers?
Will there be, will
Okay,
there
so when
be
will
a,
that be done? I guess that's what he's asking.
will there be a meeting that shows the results of that, or? This one?
No, Tom.
Sure. Oh,
I'll stand by you if that's okay, neighbor.
certainly.
So I'm on the safety committee as well. So one thing that we've done is now, just this is an example, is that we don't know what we don't know, right? So now that our neighborhood, right, Zora Street, Arrowhead, Flintlock is completed, we've noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed, speeding's an issue in our neighborhood,
Oh, sure.
right? Arrowhead's a fast lane, Zora's
Sure.
a fast lane.
A lot of street.
Yep. So what we've done is now we're doing our study on Zora Street. So if you see that we put in those speed signs,
Mhm.
so we're collecting that data, and then we're going to move it to Arrowhead. So then that can tell us, do we need rumble strips? Do we need tabletops? What do we need to do? So what we're planning to do for this community, as far as the safety committee, is we've already agreed to, correct gentlemen if I'm wrong, but there will be no construction heavy equipment at all going through our neighborhood. Because we have, to your point, kids, buses, I have 3 little kids, get on the
Tearing up the
bus.
streets,
Exactly.
yeah.
So then, once the community's completed, or if we move forward and it's completed, then we'll continue to do that fescue traffic study, because
Okay.
we have to collect the data, so then we know where to put all of our money that we spend, that type of thing. So we do have a committee dedicated to that. We're always looking for committee members, if that's something you want to join, but those are things we're doing today based off of
I
our
don't
community.
understand what organization, what,
It's
what's
it's the safety, I'm one of the council women for Galena,
oh,
so I live in your neighborhood.
I'm
Pete
confused because you
Casuccio.
weren't up here.
This is planning and zoning.
Okay, okay.
So council's on Mondays, so
I see.
we meet on Mondays. And then
Okay.
there's also Pete Casuccio,
I'm
who
ignorant.
is on this, no, you're fine, who's on the safety committee, and he's a Columbus police officer, and he's
Okay.
on council as well in your
Okay.
neighborhood.
So
So,
we have other people in other meetings
yes,
with these concerns?
yes.
Okay.
So
I'll share-
we are addressing it, but again, we don't know what we don't know yet. But those studies and things are being taken care of. So
Okay.
I just wanted to answer that on behalf of the safety committee of what we're
Okay,
doing.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then the other question I have, the gentleman was there. Oh, with the changes that you've laid out,
Mhm.
I assume there's, from what I understand, there's probably going to be fewer units as a
The-
result of this?
The unit count's the same, yeah.
It is?
Yeah, we haven't, none of the changes required us to make any significant changes to the site plan. They were all essentially kind of cleanup issues in language in the text and
Okay.
some issues like the additional sidewalk and those kind of things. So
Okay.
it's
I
this.
I
it's-
thought you were talking different widths on the lots.
That was
which
shared
I
last
That-
month's meeting. It went from
Yeah.
94 units to 92 units.
That's
in-
that's
in a
correct.
Single
Yes.
family.
So
I didn't-
the density figure is not going to vary much from?
It did from the last meeting, but not by much. It's just by a couple of lots.
So it's still over 3 per,
Is that what it is? I think so.
I thought it was 3.8 last I knew.
It was, it's 2.77 units the acre,
Oh, okay.
the overall density.
I thought it was well over 3 last time I heard. So
Mhm.
I've missed some, I apologize for having you guys rehash.
That's
But,
quite all right.
Yeah, those were the main concerns / questions that I had. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll turn it over to the commission for any additional questions.
I think it would be appropriate to have a discussion about the donation. Significant donation coming from Romanelli and Hughes. Thank you so much for that, by the way. Do we know exactly what we're doing with that donation?
No, that'll come down to council. We have to decide, I'm sure, what account to put it in. There's been talk about putting it in parks. I suppose we could put it in the general fund, but at the end of the day, when it comes time to spend it, it'll be a council approval.
And that's true, but currently, the way Romanelli has it in the development plan is, well, a couple of things. Let me just say this. That sidewalk on Walnut Street is important, right? And Seth has made it very clear to me how important that is, and I give him a lot of credit. At one point, a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't as energized about it as I am now. But Seth made a really, really good effort to get me to spend more time on that. Originally, before tonight, Romanelli had made those commitments to provide support to the village so we can go after grants with their support and engineering support so that we can, determine what it will actually take to make this connection, right? That was already there and very helpful. Since then, because of Mr. Everett's assistance, we went back to the well. We had more conversations with the Romanelli team, so I thank them for their additional investment. And because of your efforts, Seth, we get now a sidewalk. We got to start on this sidewalk, which was real important to you, which demonstrates our commitment to get the thing moving, right? And a portion of the $400K in the development plan was committed to the sidewalk fund. So that's kind of where we're at tonight, and you can take all the credit for that because you made that happen.
I'm not taking credit for anything. The only comment I would make is that, to Jeff's point that he just made, I live in the Heather Mere development. So my property backs up directly to this development. And so I speak with the neighbors each and every day. They made it really clear that if there was additional funds, that they would like it to go to the sidewalk on Walnut Street, rather than other things. Now, I understand there's a dozen different projects across the village that need funding, but that was, this development is going to directly impact us and our neighborhood, probably more than most. So appreciate that, Mayor Cannell.
And I got a further commitment, right, because we've talked about this. First of all, just so everyone knows, discretionary dollars for the village are very, very hard to get, right? Things that allow us to make investments in the parks, cemeteries, in our square that really impacts everybody's property values across the whole village. And as mayor, obviously, I want to provide the most impact I can to as many people as I can. But it doesn't mean we can't have the focus on these things and to put some plans in place, which I've already committed to you. We will do that. So I was to make sure you know that and say that publicly. All right.
And I would like everyone here who wants those sidewalks, which I am going to be dedicated to because I'm a nurse, and I don't want people walking down Walnut without sidewalks when we can best do it. You have to do the construction first, but I challenge all of you to make sure that you make sure this fund is going to get funded. So come to the meetings, get involved, and I'll be watching, and I want you to watch also. Okay?
This question might be more for Ken. Hi. Ken. When it comes to the funds, because we don't often get a gift like this, so thank you for that. We're grateful. And those conversations that happen informally outside of this public hearing are not binding. We know that because it's in our zoning code, Article 5. When they come with a recommendation, as they have done in the development plan, I think it was 50,000 toward the sidewalk and then 350 towards something else. I think it's designated Parks and Rec. Is that something that the commission can discuss because it is just a recommendation and it's not a binding since it was outside the public hearing, just to make sure that the entire commission is comfortable with that allocation? And how much does it come into play when the commission votes on the development plan and we determine an allocation, whether it's the one that was recommended or an alternate one that we would discuss? When that goes to council, if council wants to spend that money differently, would that be a change then to the development plan that would have to come back to the zoning commission for approval?
Well, somewhere along the line, I think I digested everything.
Sorry.
The first issue is I listened to Mr. Smith talk about multiple changes and modifications since the last meeting. And the notes I have on the 400,000 was that was to be determined. Yeah, you're exactly right. The bottom line decision maker here is going to be council, not this board. If this board were to consider that, and again, I think Mr. Smith's statement was we're going to work with you on the 400,000 as to how it's spent. But if this board went ahead and incorporated it in part of the approval, yes, council would have to change that, so, if they wanted to.
Thank you for that information. So if we wanted to make a recommendation to put forward to council, we would have that documented as a condition since it's not currently written in the development plan.
Yeah, assuming everybody agreed to somehow modify the
Yeah. Okay.
submission here, yes, that would be the case.
So then I guess we could open it up to the commission then to see if there is a proposed allocation that you'd be comfortable with, or are we comfortable with what has been proposed?
That's one question, more technical question, Ken. So we do have, as one of the exhibits in writing, what I just described as their commitment, 350 to the park fund, 50K to the sidewalk fund, and then, right, that is not written, I don't think, in a development plan, but it's documented in emails that's as part
Yeah,
of it.
once we get all those documents marked and admitted as exhibits, yes, then it will be part of the approval or disapproval or modification process.
If that's the case, that would be okay with what's been proposed and documented via email.
But when you say the parks fund, is that including the cemeteries, is that including the square, any work that we'd want to be doing on that, or is it just Miller, Ruffner in the future?
I think what Commissioner Hillier's getting at is basically what happens with that money after it's donated. Is the allocation part of a development plan, or is it the development plan says, hey, here's 400K, then it's up to council to decide how it gets spent. What you're asking is if council changes that, is that considered a development plan change that then has to come back in front of planning and zoning? And I don't believe that's the case. I think it's just here's your money. It's a very informal way to put it, so I apologize if it sounds rough, but here's the funds, and it's up to the village to spend it wisely after that.
I think that's why it's not in the development plan, right?
Yeah.
It's currently.
I think what Ken just said is because we have it in writing, it'll be connected to the development plan, that it is part of the development plan proposal.
That's what I understood from what you
Right.
just described, Allison, and what Ken described.
Yeah, it's part of the submission that's made now. I didn't realize the specifics were there. But yes, that would be the case. If it's approved and it's a part of the development plan, then yes, you'd have a modification.
Does that need to be documented as a condition because it's not actually in the development plan, just so council has that when they review the development plan in whole?
Well, there's going to be a decision that you're going to make, and the decision isn't going to be simply, I approve it or I disapprove it. It's going to be, I approve it, and you're going to list all of these things. If you don't do it, I'll do it, or one of us will do it. And we're going to end with the last submission that was made for this meeting, which, as I understand it, is the final version.
Yeah.
And if that final version entails the disposition of the funds, and it sounds like it does, sounds like it's been committed for $350 for one project and $50 for another.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I guess what I'm saying is that if you want to try, the question is, do you want to try to follow what the proposal is in the plan, which is $350 and $50, or are we trying to make sure that council doesn't change it? Because those are two different questions, as I see it. And, as a personal view of the matter, I don't know that the money has anything necessarily to do with the zoning. You're going to either zone this, not zone it, or modify it, not based upon whether you're getting 400, 300, or 500. You're going to do it based upon the zoning code, which is in the best interest of the municipality. So, but anyhow, the decision you make when you act on this tonight is going to have to be embellished a little bit, because you can't simply say, I approve or I disapprove, because we've got these other items we want to make sure are all included. So somebody, typically, I've done it in the past, but I'm willing to give up those duties to anybody who would like it. But
Maybe Matt can capture that in our minutes.
Maybe Matt's really good at that. But yeah, it's going to be, there'll actually be a document called decision that you'll submit to council, and it'll end with, or start with that book, the last book, and then it'll go forward with these other items that we've all made notes on to make sure of exactly what you've approved. Mm-hmm.
Zach Hopper, 275 Harrison Street, Galena, Ohio. So I've got two questions. So for the first one, I'm pretty sure both of these would be Ken questions. So let's say it goes through how it's being proposed right now for the $50,000 for the sidewalks and $350 for parks. Would those just go into the bucket lines that we've got in our budget right now? Or it to be specified to a certain sidewalk or park? Or to just be generic?
As I understood the proposal was, this is how the money is planned to be utilized, but it wasn't specific.
I haven't read the text, so
And I
Maybe I can answer. Zach, the intent was to let it fit inside Michelle's current budget categories.
okay.
So the park category is a broad category, and I think that is the part of the category.
Meaning that if
Right, that's
council-
what I had mentioned, and
Okay.
then it will come to council.
And then there
Yeah,
is
so
a
then-
category for sidewalks in the budget. Yeah.
So that means that then if council decides to spend it on a completely different sidewalk or a completely different park, then we can choose that. I'm just saying, these are just,
True, but you have enough representation here, it'll go through the way it's meant to
yeah,
go
I'm just
through.
making sure that's.
Yeah.
And then for the second one, if it does get passed as a conditional use for the development plan, if council does not like the allocation and it doesn't go through, would that kill the whole project and have to restart it? No? Okay.
We'd have had to figure out how to resolve that issue.
I think my understanding is if there's a change to the development plan that the commission puts forward, council has every right to suggest changes to that, but then it comes back for approval to the zoning commission.
Yeah, unless it's overridden by council.
I mean, the council has ultimate
Yeah.
final decision. So when we push a development plan forward, and I'm leaning on your experience here too, when we push a development plan forward, council then takes it up, okay? Say we pass tonight, council will be notified that we passed. There will be an open hearing in front of council within 45 days. Council will start to consider what we've proposed, and they can reject it, modify it, they can do whatever they want at that point. I think you're getting at, if it's modified, it's going to come back through us again, but then it goes back to council for approval. So to make sure we're not the final arbiter in what happens with the development plan. Although I don't know that history would say that there's been a lot of changes once it goes to council, but I just don't know, right?
Sorry, I feel like we're killing this one. So it would come back if there's a change?
We're here for zoning.
Right.
Um,
I'm just trying to
If it
understand that.
changes, we're going to have it come back just to make sure it fits within our zoning restrictions, right?
Okay, that answers my questions.
I have another question for Ken. I've missed you. About the Grosinger lot, what legal vessel is there that says when that lot is sold or put into an estate, that it maintains under the same development plan? Because as we know, development plans can come forward for change at any time. So whether that, I mean, I wouldn't know how long that would be, but is that an opportunity that we might run into?
There's a way to tie up private property with various conditions and restrictions. The question you have to ask yourself is, and I don't know what those are, what you all have in mind on that. We want to make sure that it makes sense from a development plan purpose to have those restrictions and conditions. And again, I don't know what they are, but yes, there would be ways to guarantee, I'm going to tell you at least for 42 years, that these restrictions would stay in place.
If I could just add one thing too to that. Because the Grosinger lot is part of the Arrowhead zoning, and it's going to be zoned under the same PUD that you are all approving tonight, it's not really any different than any of the single-family lots in the development or the patio home lots in the development. It is a lot in the development. You're right, at any time, somebody could come forward with an application to amend the use for that lot. But they have to amend the zoning for that lot. So that means they have to come back in front of this body It means they have to go in front of city council, and everybody has to agree it's the right thing to do. And so the village is ultimately the arbiter of what can and can't be changed on that lot once it's approved as part of the zoning.
And since that lot shrunk from 5 acres to 2.5 something acres, the actual amount of space that can be impacted by a future development plan change, if it's passed on to an estate or sold, is now smaller than it would have been under the original arrangement. So that's good. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Another item that's been of concern that did not come up tonight, and that is in the northwest corner of Arrowhead, the large trees that need to come down for the homes that are being laid out in the plan. I know you're saying you're going to replace trees. Can you comfort us anymore as to, is it going to be a felt swoop and you're taking every single tree from that corner?
No, I think one of the things that we talked about is we're certainly willing to, obviously where the houses sit, you know, there's going to be some impact. I don't think there's any question about that. We can look at kind of the rear yards, and as we get into the grading and the drainage, we can look and see if we can find some creative ways to save those trees in the rear yards. It would certainly be a benefit to those homeowners, obviously, to have those trees remain. But it's going to have to be something that we do really through the final engineering process as we go through kind of the final design and determine, you know, how we can save some pockets of those trees.
I think the last thing that we want to see is you just come through and there's 500 trees and you just cut all 500 down today.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well,
if you-
the 500 was over the entire site. So there's
that
certainly.
was just a number.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. There were 75 trees.
There isn't 500 in the corner, and we are preserving a large majority of those trees in that corner. It's just that we are affecting, you know, some percentage of them, and we can look at some creative ways to address that. And it's also one of the reasons that we've asked for the divergence, you know, in the code for, you know, for the trees as well.
Yes, there's strong interest in doing what you can do there.
For sure.
I appreciate you saying that, Gary. As everybody knows, that's been my struggle with this one is your ask for the divergence of tree preservation. I'm just not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But if you are able to, you know, maybe have some wooded lots back there, and because that northwest corner is about 4.5 acres of trees, and it looks like you have proposed to save about an acre or an acre and a half.
No, I think there's more of that. I mean, at the
Those
most,
are
I
just
think
my
I
rough when I
calculated.
look at the Delaware County Auditor and try to measure.
Yeah.
You use
I
that
think
measuring tool.
I calculated it over the area. I think there's about a 40% impact to the area, not a 70% impact to the area. And that 40% is to the property line itself. So that doesn't include potentially the things that I've talked about that we could, you know, potentially save. So there's definitely a willingness to look at it because it adds value to the lots as well.
For Matt, there were some additional corrections, typos and whatnot. Can we note those as conditions if this goes to a vote? And do we spell those out now?
They were actually incorporated into the final version.
Okay, well,
so-
we don't have those, so.
Oh, okay. I did not give those to you, did I? I apologize for that.
We don't have those.
I did go
and we haven't
through-
had time to review them.
Yeah, I
in
did
any
go
case.
through earlier today and make sure that they are all
Yeah,
there.
I sent a link to the documents when we got them yesterday, and then Matt and I went through them top to bottom, and then Romanelli team brought the two printed copies tonight.
I didn't receive a link yesterday.
And I think we'll certainly stipulate on the record that any typos, grammatical errors, we will be happy to work with Matt and clean up before we get to council, before they make a final vote.
Okay.
So just to note, in 1.08A, there was a typo in the calculation of the open space. You had noted that it was on net development area, and it's actually on gross development area.
And that has been changed.
And then 1.09C, you added a stipulation about the 6-foot side yard setback, stating that it would apply to the patio home area, but you didn't add the 8-foot side yard divergence to the single-family home area. So has that been corrected?
I fixed that divergence request
Okay.
as well. Yep.
And then there was a section on fences that the email between the commission had some conversation about. Is
Yep.
there
Those
anything,
were
any
fixed
update
in
there?
multiple spots,
And what do you mean by fixed?
meaning they were all changed to say this will be governed by the Village of Galena zoning code.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
We did what you were told us, I promise.
I'm just checking. And then the zoning commission understands about encroachments possibly being within the same side yard, just staggered,
Yes.
and not how we thought we talked about it last month.
Yes,
Yeah. And we have the letter from the fire department acknowledging.
I see that.
yes, it's in the exhibits in the back.
Yeah.
I think that's all I had.
Okay.
Ken, while we're going through this, is this the right time to enter all these documents up here into the
Yes,
record?
let's go,
Would
let's
you
go
like to
ahead and
do
do
that?
that. So
Yeah.
I'll ask Matt to go out and identify, what are there, 7 or 8 exhibits there. If you can start with the first one and just go through it. Just tell people what it is and what it's dated. And obviously, if any of those are not part of the things that were considered on the application for this rezoning, we want to notify it. Otherwise, everything there has to do with this rezoning project. So why don't you pick the first one? I forget which one is Exhibit A.
Well, he's walking down one very minor item,
Yes, ma'am?
but just to prove that I read it. I've got a notation in Miller Farm for the traffic study. The number of homes are incorrect. We can talk about that. It says multifamily and single, and Miller Farm is all single home, but we can talk about that.
Oh, in the
That's
MOU?
just in the traffic study.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
We had them at the Miller Farm traffic study too. Is that what you're speaking?
I know what you're talking
It's actually in the verbiage,
It's in the thing, it still mentions the original version of Miller Farm.
which,
Oh.
that goes back
In the MOU itself? Okay,
6, 7, 8 years ago.
thanks
right?
for seeing that.
So what do you have, what is the first exhibit you have there, Matt? A?
All right, Exhibit A is the original submittal that was made by Romanelli and Hughes back in May.
Okay, and that's, has that been amended since?
Yes.
And what's Exhibit B?
Exhibit B is the next version of that that was presented to the commission at the May 21st Planning and Zoning meeting.
The first one was May 21st, the second was June 18th.
Yes, the first one was what I reviewed and caught and made them fix before we got to the
Gotcha.
521 meeting.
Were both A and B utilized to go ahead and consider this rezoning application?
Yes.
And what about Exhibit C? What's that?
Exhibit C is the binder that is the result of additional changes discussed in the 521 Planning and Zoning meeting and presented at the June 18th Planning and Zoning meeting.
And next one is Exhibit D. What's that?
Exhibit D was supposed to be the final submittal for this meeting, but we found additional changes that need made, and so that led to one more book that they brought tonight.
And what about Exhibit E?
Exhibit E is an email chain with everything from the donation to helping with the engineering and grant funding for the sidewalks to all the changes that were worked out leading up to this meeting.
And was Exhibit E, like Exhibits A, B, C, and D, utilized to consider or made available to the commission to consider the rezoning?
Yes.
And what's Exhibit F?
Exhibit F is an email chain with some final markups that were used in tonight's presentation on the screen.
And what about Exhibit G?
Exhibit G is the final version of the development plan submitted for tonight's meeting. It was submitted on July 29th, 2025.
Does Exhibit G entail all, or, and if not all, most of the statements made by Mr. Smith in his opening statement?
Yes, he laid out all of the changes that were made into the document.
So other than the documents A through G that you've just identified, is there any other documents or things that were utilized by you first to make your report and made available to councils to consider the rezoning?
No.
Then I would suggest that the council, or that the board take a voice vote accepting your own exhibits, of course, A through G, and they'll be part of the final record for this proceeding.
So
And that-
moved. Let's take,
Go ahead. I was going to say, at that point in time, I don't, for my purposes, there's no reason to keep the hearing open.
We're taking a vote
Yeah,
on the
take the-
submissions.
Yeah, you want to take the vote now?
Kathy moved. I'll second, Matt.
Just 1 second. Our normal professional minute taker is out, so you have to bear with me for a second. All right, what's the motion? I'm sorry.
Kathy motioned. I seconded
To accept the
to
exhibit.
accept the exhibits.
we'll start with Seth.
Who seconded? Just a minute, who seconded? I'm sorry. Okay. All right, Seth,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Yes.
Michelle, yes.
Village exhibits are accepted. I don't know if the applicant, do you have anything different than what we've discussed here that you want admitted? Yes. All right, great.
Does the commission have any more questions for Romanelli and Hughes tonight? Then I'll make a motion to close the open hearing.
Mayor, would it be appropriate for me at this time to just make some closing appeals?
You are welcome to do that, sir.
Before we get started, before I say anything, I really wanted to thank everybody for really kind of taking a very thoughtful approach and for all of the time that many of you have invested in this process over the last year. You know, we started this a little over a year ago with a concept, ran it by the village, participated in a lot of meetings. A lot of people gave up their time, met with members of the commission, met with council members, met with neighbors in their homes, met with the mayor, met with the staff a number of times, and everybody's just put a lot of effort into taking that original concept and bringing it to what I hope, you know, we can all be proud of here today. And that is kind of an unusual scenario in a lot of cases, you know, getting that much kind of guidance and input from people. So that was, to me, very much a blessing, and everybody's time is greatly appreciated. So kind of just on the last thing, my last appeal, one of the things that I wanted to say, or a couple of things, is right now, obviously, the Arrowhead property is currently zoned planned commercial. We've all been over that. We know what that means. We don't need to detail what kind of that implies for the potential development of the property. Romanelli and Hughes doesn't believe that a planned commercial use is appropriate for this piece of property. We don't believe it's the best thing for Galena, and we've certainly heard loud and clear from the adjacent residents that they don't feel that living next to a planned commercial development is kind of an exciting thing or what's best for them. I believe fully that the Romanelli and Hughes proposal in front of you today is much more in scale with the charm and the character of the village of Galena, and certainly much more compatible in terms of use with the neighbors next door. I don't think there's any question about that. Is the development perfect? I think it would be very hard to get all 5 of you to agree on what perfect actually is. I'm sure each one of you probably has something that you wish you could change. Now, we've worked very hard to get it to this point, and at some point, the realities of development and engineering and cost and everything just kind of play into the factor of what makes a development work, what makes it feasible, and what makes it attractive to the community. But I do believe that with the hard work and input that everybody's provided, we've managed to pull together a development that the village is ultimately going to be very proud of. And I do believe the old saying that you can make perfect the enemy of the good is a true statement. And in this case, I would even say you can make perfect the enemy of the great, because I do believe this is a great proposal. The applicant is certainly better than what's permissible for the property today. It's considerably better than any of the previous proposals that have been brought to the city to date. So we would just ask the commission to consider that. And in addition to committing to be a great development partner, Romanelli and Hughes is giving back to the community. We've talked about the donation, but one thing that hasn't come up since the first meeting is the Welcome to Galena sign. So there's really a number of ways that Romanelli and Hughes has kind of committed to being a good partner on this for the village. So really, I think that the question in front of the members, and I know none of you take this decision lightly. You all take your job very seriously, and the thoroughness with which you've pursued this is very evident. So number one, is the development as proposed better than what's permissible today? Is it better for the village? Is it better for the neighbors? Will you likely see a better development proposal or a better development partner, for that matter? Is that likely to present itself? The village has seen in recent years people who have come in and just tried to hammer home a concept that they wanted to see, and it was disastrous. And by contrast, Romanelli and Hughes has worked with everybody for over a year to try and make changes, update, their original concept. And so I think it's been a very, very collaborative process. And then, overall, does the development achieve the objectives of the planned mixed-use development? And I believe it does. I believe we put together something that I think is truly going to be a gem for the village of Galena and the community. Not only benefiting the people that will live there, but the people that live adjacent to it, who will be able to walk to shops, utilize the village green, all those kind of things. So with that, I'd just like to close it out. We want to thank everybody. We know you guys each individually have to weigh these things and make your own decisions. I just wanted to kind of give you my closing appeal, if it were. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. All right, so I'll move to close the open hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Matt, if you'd take the vote, please.
Seth,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Michelle.
Yes.
Okay, well, commission members, the time has come. We've got to make a decision. I just want to thank all of you with your input and, all your suggestions, recommendations, made this whole proposal a lot stronger than where we started, so thank you for that. I respect everybody's individual decisions here, but I do believe that we brought forward here a nice, beautiful opportunity for the village. So with that,
Well, I move that Planning and Zoning Commission vote to recommend that council approve the application as submitted by Romanelli and Hughes on May 2nd, 2025, and revised on July 29th, 2025, and to amend the zoning of approximately 84 acres of land, parcel 4174-200-400-3000, from its current zoning of planned commercial and office to planned mixed-use development, and to recommend that council subsequently approve the development plans and the text, including all requested divergences as submitted to the record of this Planning and Zoning Commission meeting dated July 30th, 2025.
Thank you, Kathy. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, Matt, you prepare us for the vote, please?
Seth,
Yes.
Allison,
No.
Michelle,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Mayor Kennel.
Yes. Welcome to Galena, Romanelli and Hughes. Good job, guys.
I think that's exciting.
Okay, I'm going to recommend a commission break here to, what do you say, 8:35? So we can take
Yeah, that's fine.
a break. 8:35, we'll reconvene at 8:35.
Sorry about that. I had to restart the stream. For those of you who,
Since we didn't start the stream, let's start over.
Yeah.
We brought the meeting back to order at 8:35 PM. Seth Everett is not here, so we're continuing the meeting now. Let's redo the approval of minutes. I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're moving on to the zoning report. Matt.
all right, Miller Farm, Section 1, public infrastructure is complete up to the pump station. The pump station construction is still ongoing. 23 of 33 parcels are currently in some stage of the permitting process, and as of this morning, that is now 24. Columbia Gas has completed the mainline gas installation, and they've obtained all of their permits for the service lines for each house, and those installations are ongoing. For Miller Farm Section 2, the improvement plans for Section 2, Phase A, B, and C have been approved, and construction's underway. KEM's engineering inspector is there daily inspecting the work. The right-of-way permit for Columbia Gas installation for Phase A and B was issued the week of 7/21, and they came in with the Phase 2 submission this week, and that is approved but awaiting a check. So
I noticed they cut the road and entrance on Vans Valley. Right? So they're moving dirt all the way up there. Whatever happened with the boulders? I never got an update on that.
I stopped by and talked to Trevor Stover, and he gave me the name of the MI contact who is in charge of that. But I haven't reached out to him yet. But Trevor, because I asked if they were removing the boulders because they were being moved around, and he said, we'll leave them and wait for you to tell us where to put them.
All right, so you're connected. You feel okay
Yeah.
about that? Great. Great. Okay, Matt?
where we at? For Section 3A, the construction plans have been approved, and construction's also underway in that phase, and KEM's engineering inspector is also there daily for inspections. No minor subdivision updates at this time. As we know, the public hearing for Arrowhead was concluded this evening, so that will be into the zoning permits section next month. We are still working with the owners at 152 North Walnut Street on their property maintenance and grading. They have installed a silt fence, and they did dig and pour the basement. I did stop by and make sure that they were following their setbacks adequately, and they were within 1/4 of an inch. So they're doing very nicely there. And I'm finishing up with KEM on finishing out their stormwater permit for that property. So everything's going well there. The grading and stormwater permits are approved for 288 and 300 North Walnut Street. The payment was received on Monday, and I'm waiting for that to clear before I issue the permits there. And it's on them to schedule the sewer inspections when they're ready. As for other applications and inquiries, the owner at 185 North Walnut Street is interested in a second driveway cut on their property to make like a, I don't know what you call that, a horseshoe or whatever to make a turnaround. I don't know what's possible and what's not possible there. It's in the very beginning stages. And there's been ongoing discussions on some property maintenance issues between 185 and 195. And I stopped by today and did a final inspection there, and that appears to have all been resolved, so I just need to send them an email and let them know. There are...
Is that the 185 and 195 that we approved for variance a couple months ago? Is that the one where they're taking down right next to the park?
No,
They're
that's
building two houses?
That's 288 and 300. Yeah.
Katie Coletta.
195.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
195 is the one that's back off the road that's for sale, and then 185 is the red house that's, yeah. 185 is the one wanting to do. Right. That's the other thing we have to keep into account is there is one right next to him that does have it. So anyhow, like I said, that's in the very beginning stages. Brightspeed and Altifiber are both pursuing right-of-way permits for village-wide fiber installation. They are at various stages of engineering corrections and whatnot for that project. And then 311 North Walnut Street is looking to put a privacy fence around not their whole property, but more than what's allowed in the code. So there's going to be a variance hearing for that in the August Planning and Zoning meeting. And like I already said, 152 North Walnut Street's going through stormwater and grading permitting right now. And there's a whole list of permits issued, and most of it revolves around Miller Farm Section 1. So that's all I have.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
And it's of the commission and maybe you, Tom. The unincorporated homes between the village of Galena and Sunbury, are those in the village?
Up Harrison Street?
Yes, Harrison Street. That are like, they're shown as like Berkshire zoning on our. Okay.
And that's like the farm, the big acreage?
That has. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I ask because I was just driving down Harrison Street this week, and one of those houses is putting up a privacy fence around the entire property. I didn't know if that was within the village or if not. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Like what?
Yeah, I just didn't remember it being in the front of the house, but maybe I just never really noticed. I know, the house is really cute now, so, all right. Thank you for the clarification.
Matt, I need to draw you back to the fiber installation.
Yes.
Can you please bring me everything on Alta Fiber tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay? They did not pass council, so I don't know what they're doing.
Well,
need to know.
I think they're. I don't think it's related to.
I need to know what it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's no
Then
problem.
you just get it to me, and I'll.
Sure.
It's a standard right-of-way permit application.
Okay,
We'll get everything to you.
if that's what it is. Okay. Anything else for Matt? I gave everybody a copy of this diagnostic report, okay? If everyone could please start to work through this or read through this. And then at our next meeting on August 20th, I would like Allison to help us lead some additional discussion on the demolition language. I haven't had a chance to really digest what is in here regarding that specific language, but there are some suggestions and recommendations there we should consider. So that'll be on the agenda next month. I don't have anything else. Anybody? Oh, so next meeting's August 20th. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Nobody wants to adjourn?
Yes. I second that.
I didn't motion. You want to motion?
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned at, what is that, 8:47?